Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we take your sources, unpack the most important insights, and make sense of it all, just for you.
And today, wow, we're diving deep into a report that's really fresh, like hot off the presses this week, May 2025. It's covering two absolutely massive tech events that just wrapped up, Microsoft Build and Google I/O.
Yeah, a ton of news came out of those. Our mission today really is to cut through all that noise, all the announcements, and zoom right in on one pivotal shift they both highlighted.
Yeah.
We're talking about this big evolution in AI, specifically the move towards something called agentic AI.
Exactly. Forget just, chatting with an AI assistant that answers your questions. The future both Microsoft and Google showcased this week is all about AI that can understand pretty complex goals, work autonomously across different apps, and actually perform tasks for you, like interacting with the digital world on your behalf.
So wait, it's not just fetching information anymore. It's
Right.
actually doing things, taking action.
Precisely. That's the core idea. And seeing how two, huge rivals like Microsoft and Google are both landing on the same vision of an agentic future, basically at the same time.
Wow.
So that's pretty fascinating.
Okay, let's unpack this then. The executive summary in your source material makes it pretty clear. Generative AI is moving into its next big phase.
Right.
And the headline is AI that takes action. Agentic AI.
Right. And what's really striking is that convergence you mentioned, both companies almost like in lockstep this past week were hitting these key themes around agentic AI. They're talking about multi-agent collaboration.
Meaning like different AIs working together.
That's a
A chain-
vital.
Yeah, exactly. Different specialized AI agents collaborating. They're also, and this is interesting, pushing for open protocols.
Yeah.
That suggests maybe agents from Microsoft could actually talk to agents from Google or others.
Whoa. Okay. That is surprising.
It is.
Yeah.
And crucially, there's this heavy focus on getting these AI agents ready for, prime time, ready for the enterprise. So this isn't just blue sky research demos. They see this as fundamental to how businesses are going to operate, like really soon.
Absolutely. The report really emphasizes that both Microsoft and Google are building out entire platforms where these AI agents are meant to play a central role in productivity, in business workflows. They're not just, adding a few AI features here and there. It feels much bigger. They're laying the groundwork for an AI-driven world, and it definitely feels like a race to define how it all works.
All right, let's dig into Microsoft's approach first then. Based on what came out of Build 2025, their whole vision seems built around that co-pilot idea, right? AI assisting you, integrated super deeply into their software, and playing to their strengths with big companies.
Yes, their strategy is clearly about weaving this agentic capability into the tools enterprises are already using day in, day out. And one of their really standout announcements was something called multi-agent orchestration built into their Copilot Studio.
Okay, multi-agent orchestration. That sounds a bit technical. What does that actually let you do?
Okay, think of it like this. Instead of one giant general-purpose AI trying to handle everything, you have several smaller, more specialized AI agents. The orchestration part is what allows them to coordinate, to work together on a single complex task.
Ah, okay, like dividing up the work.
Exactly. The example in the source was drafting a legal document. You might have one agent do the initial drafting, another agent cross-references that draft against, say, internal compliance rules, and maybe a third agent handles all the formatting. The system coordinates all of them.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Breaking down the job seems like it would be more reliable, right? And probably lets you tackle much bigger, more complex tasks than one AI could handle alone. The report mentioned it saves time on those fiddly, multi-step workflows.
Precisely. And they're making it easier for companies to customize this stuff with something called Copilot tuning. This is like a low-code tool where you can essentially train these agents using your own company's private data.
Oh, interesting. So a law firm could train an agent on its past cases in specific style.
Exactly. So the contract drafts it produces are much more accurate and sound like they came from that firm. It's about getting really specific domain expert value out of the AI.
And all this is built on their cloud platform, Azure AI.
Right. Azure AI Foundry and agent services, those are generally available now. And here's where it gets really interesting, tying back to what we mentioned earlier. They are actively embracing open agent protocols.
Okay, those open protocols again. You mentioned A2A and MCP.
Yeah, agent-to-agent, or A2A, and Anthropic's Model Context Protocol, MCP. Microsoft specifically called out that their customers see things like multi-agent communication and debugging as, quote, essential for their needs. That really implies these agents need to talk to each other, maybe even across company lines.
So A2A and MCP, Break those down a bit.
Yeah.
What does having open protocols for AI agents actually mean in practice?
Well, think of them like the basic rules of the road for the internet, right? HTTP, TCP/IP let different computers talk. A2A is aiming to be a common language, so agents built by different companies or on different systems can exchange info and ask each other to do things. MCP is more about security and permissions, giving an agent controlled access to specific data or tools you approve.
Like letting a scheduling agent see my calendar, but only my calendar, and only when I say so.
Exactly, without giving it the keys to your entire kingdom. It's super important for making this interoperable, for avoiding a future where, a Microsoft agent can only talk to other Microsoft things.
That whole push for an open agentic web sounds pretty significant then, making sure agents can interact securely but freely.
It really is. Microsoft seems to be actively trying to prevent the world from fracturing into these walled gardens of agents. They even showed something called NLWeb, which the source described as kind of like HTML for agents.
HTML for agents.
Yeah, the idea is to make regular websites understandable and usable by AI agents in a conversational way, securely, using protocols like MCP.
Gotcha. I also saw that GitHub Copilot, their coding assistant, is changing too, moving beyond just code suggestions.
Oh yeah, big time. It's evolving into more of an autonomous coding agent. The idea is it can run in the background, handle multi-step tasks like not just write a function, but write the tests for it, run the tests, and maybe even open a pull request for review.
Wow, like a proper AI pair programmer.
Kind of, really trying to proactively assist and keep developers in the flow, as they put it. They even open sourced the Copilot chat extension for VS Code, which is a nice gesture to the developer community. Plus, new admin and security settings for enterprise use, of course.
And it seems they're not just thinking about the cloud. This Windows AI Foundry thing is about running AI right on your PC.
Yes, and this is a really big deal for certain scenarios. Think data privacy analyzing sensitive data locally without it ever leaving your machine, or low latency needs, or even working offline.
Right, like a salesperson analyzing customer data on their laptop in the field.
Exactly. This Foundry Local component optimizes AI models for the specific hardware in your PC, bringing the AI right to where the data is. It gives businesses more flexibility and potentially helps manage costs, too.
Okay, but if companies start having dozens, maybe hundreds of these agents running around, managing all that sounds like it could get chaotic. The report mentioned agent sprawl.
That's a huge enterprise concern, and Microsoft is directly addressing it with what they called enterprise-grade agent governance. They previewed something called Entra Agent ID.
Entra ID, that's their corporate identity system, right?
Yeah, formerly Azure Active Directory.
Yeah.
So this gives every single corporate AI agent its own unique, traceable identity within Entra ID. This means IT can manage the agent's access permissions, monitor its activities just like they would a human employee. It enables deploying lots of agents safely.
Now they're tying in their security tools, too.
Yep. Integrating Microsoft Purview data security and compliance tools. So things like data loss prevention, DLP, and scanning for sensitive information can be applied to what the AI agents are doing. This hits directly at those core enterprise worries: privacy, security, accountability.
And they're going beyond general business tools, looking at specific industries.
Absolutely. The source pointed to solutions like Microsoft Discovery for R&D. Imagine specialized agents coordinating complex analysis and simulations to speed up something like drug discovery. It shows a strategy of embedding these tailored co-pilots deep into core business functions for specific domain, science, software development, CRM, with Dynamics 365 Copilot.
So if we wrap up Microsoft's side, the message seems to be we're building the platform for enterprises. It's about building, deploying, managing these AI agents securely, at scale, and integrated right into the Microsoft tools you already know and use.
That absolutely nails it. Integration, security, governance, plus a really rich toolkit. The source had over 50 new AI tools announced. And importantly, that push for openness through standards.
Right, makes sense given their strengths. Okay, so now let's switch gears over to Google I/O 2025. Their approach felt, well, maybe a bit different, right? More leaning towards a universal assistant or agent powered by Gemini, leveraging their huge consumer reach.
Yes, I think that's fair. Google's definitely playing to its strengths in fundamental AI research and its, ubiquitous consumer products. And the absolute foundation for pretty much everything they showed was the upgrades to their core AI model, Gemini 2.5.
How big a deal were those upgrades? Were they significant?
According to Google, yeah, pretty significant. They claimed it sweeps the El Arena leaderboard. That's a key benchmark for language models with over 300-point gains. They also showed an experimental feature called Deep Think mode.
Deep think.
Yeah, the idea is to improve reasoning on really complex tasks by having the model basically spend more computational steps thinking through the query. That could be a huge benefit for accuracy in tricky areas like, say, legal analysis or financial modeling. These core model improvements really underpin all their other announcements.
And they showed off Gemini Live. That looked pretty slick, like you could talk to it naturally, interrupt it, but it could also see through your phone's camera.
That was a major demo, yeah. You could point your phone's camera at, say, a broken dishwasher and ask for troubleshooting help, or show it what's in your fridge and get recipe ideas on the spot. It's merging their vision tech, like Google Lens, with voice interaction really seamlessly. It builds on research from Project Astra, which we can talk more about, but it's a big step toward an AI that understands your immediate, real-world environment. Huge potential there.
And then the big headline for a lot of people seemed to be Agent Mode and Project Mariner actually giving Gemini the ability to take actions for you.
This is really the heart of their agentic push, certainly on the consumer side. It comes from their Project Mariner research, and this capability is coming to the Gemini app initially for subscribers. The AI can literally control your web browser.
Control the browser, like click buttons and fill forms.
Exactly. Navigate websites, fill in forms, schedule appointments. They showed a demo scheduling a home tour on Zillow using that MCP protocol we mentioned earlier for secure access. This transforms the assistant from just talking about doing something to actually doing it, automating those tedious online tasks. And crucially, they're also opening this up with APIs and SDKs for developers and partners.
Partners like those RPA companies.
Yeah.
UiPath, automation, anywhere.
Yep, they specifically mentioned them. The idea is to use these agent capabilities to automate all sorts of office processes, bridging the gap between the AI and existing business systems.
So that agent mode connects to the bigger vision they have with Project Astra.
Definitely. Project Astra is more the long-term research prototype, the grand vision for a truly universal AI assistant, one that's helpful in everyday life, understands multiple inputs at once, vision, sound, speech processes it all in real time, and even has a short-term memory. They're expanding testing, including on AR glasses.
So Astra is the research, but its ideas are filtering into products now.
Precisely. You can see Astra's influence already starting to integrate into core Google products. Think search, Lens, Maps. Imagine pointing your camera at a building, asking about it, and then having the AI seamlessly guide you there via Maps, remembering the context of your earlier conversation. It's all about moving towards more ambient, proactive AI assistance that understands your context.
Speaking of search, integrating Gemini directly into Google search results felt like a massive change. This AI mode rolling out to everyone in the US.
That's potentially transformational for how people find information. Now, right within Google search, you can flip to an AI tab and get synthesized answers, ask follow-up questions, have more of a conversation instead of just getting a list of blue links. Google themselves are saying basically all search is AI search now. It shifts search from just retrieval to an intelligent agent trying to understand your intent and synthesize information.
And they're putting generative AI heavily into Workspace too, their productivity suite.
Oh, yes. Infusing Gemini directly into Gmail, Docs, Sheets, and so on. You can expect the kinds of things we're starting to see elsewhere. AI drafting emails, summarizing long documents or meeting transcripts automatically, generating images for presentations, even analyzing data in spreadsheets just by asking questions in plain English.
Aimed squarely at boosting productivity, offloading the routine stuff.
Absolutely. And interestingly, they also introduced a Google AI Ultra subscription tier for these premium AI features, creating a business model very similar to Microsoft's Copilot subscriptions.
What about tools for developers who want to build their own agents using Google's tech?
They had announcements there too. Their agent development kit, the ADK, hit version 1.0.0 for Python developers, which is a big milestone, and they previewed a Java version. They also launched the Vertex AI Agent Engine UI in Google Cloud, basically a control center for businesses to manage and monitor the agents they build and deploy.
And the open source model too, right, Gemma?
Yes, Gemma 3N. It's designed to be a powerful but efficient model, specifically for running on devices, phones, laptops, etc. That caters to the growing demand for on-device AI for privacy or offline use cases. So they're providing the tools, the management layer, and options for both cloud and edge deployment.
And I saw they also showcased improvements in generating images and video.
Definitely. Updates to their Imagen model for images, Imagen 4, and VO for video, VIA 3, they showed a research project called Flow for AI-assisted filmmaking. And they're integrating AI more into consumer products like Google Photos with Magic Editor or adding virtual try-on features to Google Shopping. These make their services stickier, more personalized, and open up new creative avenues with business potential too, like boosting e-commerce sales.
Finally, they didn't forget about safety, did they? Mentioned detection tools.
Right. They highlighted Synthetide Detector, a tool developed from DeepMind research to help identify AI-generated images, which is crucial for tackling misinformation. They also published a white paper on the safety measures built into the Gemini models, things like refusing harmful requests and working to reduce hallucinations or inaccurate outputs. It's a necessary part of building trust as these AI systems get more powerful and agentic.
Okay, so summing up the Google I/O side, it feels like they're leveraging a very powerful core AI model, Gemini 2.5, to drive a huge wave of innovation across their entire ecosystem, from search to workspace to developer tools, with a really strong focus on AI taking proactive actions and understanding the world through multiple senses, multimodal AI.
That captures it well. They're embedding these agentic capabilities everywhere, fueled by their latest AI research, aiming for impact across both consumer and enterprise spaces.
So we've got these two giants. Microsoft doubling down on enterprise integration, governance, co-pilots working with you. Google pushing more towards that universal, proactive, multimodal assistant or agent, leveraging Gemini and their consumer reach, but with hooks for enterprise too. And yet, despite being fierce competitors, you mentioned they're actually collaborating on some open standards, like A2A and MCP.
It is surprising, isn't it? But also quite pragmatic. I think both realize that a completely fragmented world where agents can't talk to each other wouldn't be good for anyone, least of all users and businesses. The report even mentioned a concrete example. SAP showed its Joule Assistant, which integrates with Microsoft Tech, using that A2A protocol to communicate with an agent built using Google's ADK.
Wow, okay, so that cross-vendor communication is actually happening,
Yeah.
enabled by these standards.
It seems to be starting, yes, which is potentially huge for avoiding vendor lock-in down the road.
But even with that collaboration, their core philosophies, their approaches, still feel quite different, reflecting where they come from, right?
Oh, absolutely. The fundamental vision differs. Microsoft consistently uses that co-pilot metaphor. The AI works alongside you, it augments specific tasks, and often keeps the human kind of in the loop for approvals or next steps.
Right, assisting.
Whereas Google leans more into the assistant or agent, framing an AI that can potentially take the driver's seat for certain tasks, acting more proactively, orchestrating things across different apps for you. Think agent mode or the long-term Astra vision.
And how they're bringing AI into their products reflects that difference too.
Yeah, definitely. Microsoft is embedding AI deeply within its existing enterprise software suite Office, now Microsoft 365, GitHub, Azure, Dynamics. It plays directly to their established enterprise footprint. It feels very integrated.
Makes sense. What about Google?
Google often seems to be introducing new AI-centric products or modes like the standalone Gemini app or the AI mode in search. And while they have strong enterprise offerings via Google Cloud and Workspace, the integration might rely more on APIs or partners to bridge into existing workflows. So Microsoft might feel more turnkey if you're already a heavy Microsoft shop, while Google is building new AI platforms and experiences that might attract users or require partners to integrate.
What about under the hood? Their architecture and openness.
There's a difference there, too. Microsoft's Azure AI platform positions itself as more model agnostic. You can run models from OpenAI, for Anthropic, from Meta, like Llama, even Mistral, alongside their own models. They open-sourced parts of Copilot Chat, too. It promotes flexibility.
And Google.
Google is more vertically integrated, primarily building around its own powerful Gemini models, though they did release the OpenGemma model for on-device use, and they're supporting those open agent protocols. So developers and businesses get different levels of choice regarding the underlying AI models and potential on-premises options depending on which platform they lean towards.
And their unique strengths seem to guide them differently, too.
I think so. Microsoft's co-pilots generally feel more reactive. They assist when you call on them. Google's agents, especially with agent mode and the Astra Vision, are explicitly designed to be more proactive and autonomous, and their unique data assets differ. Microsoft has the deep context of business data via the Microsoft Graph, understanding your documents, meetings, colleagues. Google has unparalleled world knowledge from search, mapping data, and cutting-edge multimodal capabilities, understanding images, video, real-world context better.
Right, playing to their respective strengths. And in terms of actually getting these things out the door, execution seems maybe at different stages.
That's a fair observation based on the announcements this week. Microsoft seems perhaps a bit further along in packaging and releasing these agentic features specifically for the enterprise, with more things hitting general availability or public preview with clear business positioning.
Well, Google.
Google has more initiatives still described as research, like Astra, or features rolling out in beta or starting with subscribers, like Agent Mode. But when Google's features do land broadly, they often arrive deeply integrated across their massive consumer ecosystem, which can have huge impact quickly.
So it's not necessarily a simple either choice for businesses, especially if those open standards like A2A gain traction and allow agents to talk. The decision might boil down to which ecosystem you're already invested in, or whether you prioritize that deep enterprise integration versus, say, cutting-edge multimodal AI or consumer reach.
Exactly. You could, theoretically, end up using agents from both platforms that potentially work together. The core decision might be about which platform provides the best foundational capabilities, tooling, and trust model for your specific needs and existing tech stack.
Which brings us perfectly to the so what for businesses. Because these announcements, overwhelmingly, were targeted at transforming how work gets done inside companies.
Without a doubt. The most immediate, tangible impact everyone's talking about is enhanced productivity. Just being able to offload tasks, drafting emails, summarizing long reports or meetings, analyzing data to AI agents through tools like M365 Copilot or Google's Gemini in Workspace.
And the report mentioned early adopters are actually seeing results.
Yes, it cited specific examples. Finastra, a fintech company, apparently saw a 30% reduction in the time spent on manual compliance checks using AI. And another stat was that 94% of early Microsoft 365 Copilot users reported net productivity gains and higher job satisfaction. That last point is key.
Why higher satisfaction?
Because the AI often takes over the tedious, repetitive parts of the job, freeing people up to focus on more interesting, higher value work. Less drudgery usually means happier employees.
Okay, that makes sense. And customer service seems like another obvious area for impact.
Absolutely. Imagine AI agents handling initial customer questions 24/7, maybe even navigating your website for the customer to find information or complete tasks like initiating a return or booking an appointment. And with integrations like Google's Agent Mode connecting to RPA platforms, you can automate even more complex back-end support processes.
The benefits seem clear. Faster responses, always-on availability, easier scaling, but there must be risks too.
Definitely. The report stresses the need for careful governance. You need to ensure the AI agents stick to company policies, handle customer data securely and appropriately, and know when to escalate to a human. That trust factor is critical.
What about internal functions, like software development or IT operations?
Big impacts there, too. AI coding assistants like the evolving GitHub Copilot or Google's tools can genuinely speed up development cycles, handling boilerplate code, suggesting tests, finding bugs. And on-device AI, like Microsoft's Windows AI Foundry, opens up possibilities for local agents managing device settings or monitoring for security issues without sending data to the cloud.
And that multi-agent orchestration idea seems key for IT.
Yes, for automating complex IT workflows. Imagine onboarding a new employee. One agent could provision their accounts, another order their hardware, another set up their software access, all coordinated automatically. The big challenges here are integrating with often complex legacy systems and maintaining strong oversight and security, hence the importance of things like Microsoft's Entra Agent ID.
And this isn't just for tech or support roles. It's extending into core business functions across the board.
That's the vision. AI agents assisting with HR processes like onboarding paperwork, helping finance teams with automating transactions or generating reports, enabling marketing teams to create campaign content or visuals more easily, and even accelerating R&D through specialized platforms like Microsoft Discovery. The tools are also becoming accessible enough for non-technical staff to leverage AI for creative tasks or data analysis.
Okay, the potential sounds huge, but for businesses looking at implementing this, there are definitely hurdles, right? Readiness challenges.
Absolutely. Top of the list is data security and compliance. Both companies are actively highlighting features to address this. Microsoft with Purview integration and Entra ID, Google with their built-in safety features and secure model design. This is non-negotiable, especially for regulated
And
industries.
interoperability, you mentioned the standards.
Right. The potential for standards like A2A and MCP to allow agents from different vendors to talk is really promising. That SAP Google example shows it's possible. It could reduce the risk of getting locked into one vendor's ecosystem, but actually integrating these agents smoothly into complex existing IT environments, that's still going to require significant effort and expertise.
And then there are the human factors, the organizational hurdles, adoption barriers.
Huge ones. Change management is critical. Companies need to train employees not just on how to use these new AI tools, but maybe more importantly, how to effectively supervise and collaborate with these agentic capabilities. There are also real concerns about job displacement, though. As we discussed, the early narrative seems more focused on augmentation and shifting tasks rather than wholesale replacement, which might ease some fears but requires workforce adaptation.
Plus regulatory uncertainty and cost.
Exactly. Governments are still figuring out how to regulate AI, creating some uncertainty. And yes, cost is a factor running these powerful models, especially in the cloud, and paying for the necessary subscriptions like Copilot or AI Ultra adds up, although using smaller on-device models where appropriate can help manage that.
But despite the challenges, the report points to real companies like Finastra and KPMG already showing tangible ROI. It seems the tools and platforms are maturing, and both Microsoft and Google are providing frameworks to help businesses scale AI more confidently, addressing management, security, and standards.
That's the picture, yes. The potential benefits are becoming clearer, but realizing them requires careful planning and addressing those very real challenges head on.
So, shifting focus slightly, how has the wider world reacted to all this? The market, the public? Is it just massive hype? Or is the reality starting to bite?
Well, the reaction has been intense, as you'd expect. It's definitely a mix, a lot of excitement, serious strategic interest from businesses, but also a healthy dose of caution.
What about developers in the tech crowd?
Generally very welcoming of this AI agent era. They're excited about the new developer tools, things like Copilot Studio, Google's ADK hitting 1.0, and the openness initiatives, Microsoft open sourcing parts of Copilot, both companies collaborating on A2A and MCP that's seen very positively. Google putting AI right into search results. Many see that as just the inevitable future of search.
And how are business leaders and analysts framing it? Still the AI arms race.
That narrative is definitely still there, yes. You see Microsoft often positioned as having the lead in terms of enterprise readiness, packaging, and integration right now. Google is seen as pushing the absolute cutting edge of AI research and using that power to protect and expand its core businesses like search and its consumer ecosystem. The huge investments, like Google's reported $75 billion in capital expenditure, underscore the scale of this competition. But interestingly, there is also that recognition of the collaboration on standards, which slightly softens the pure arms race view.
Were there specific endorsements or voices that seemed to resonate?
Yeah, Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella's articulation of an open agentic web got a lot of attention. Those customer testimonials on ROI, we mentioned Finastra, KPMG, they provide concrete proof points that resonate with businesses. On the Google side, DeepMind leader Demis Hassabis talking about the Project Astrovision really captures the imagination about the long-term potential. Plus, the technical community noted Gemini's strong benchmark performance, and developers seem genuinely excited about practical tools like a stable Python ADK or the power of Copilot Studio.
But with all this talk of powerful autonomous agents, there must be pushback, criticisms, concerns. It can't all be positive buzz.
Oh, absolutely not. A major one is the current reality living up to the hype? Some critics argue that today's agents might be significantly less autonomous or reliable than the polished demos suggest. They likely still require quite a bit of human oversight, especially for anything important or complex.
Reliability and trust seem like massive issues then. Hallucinations are still a thing, right?
They are. And if an agent is acting on your behalf, a hallucination that leads to it taking the wrong action, booking the wrong flight, sending the wrong email, making an incorrect transaction that's orders of magnitude worse than just getting a factual error from a chatbot. So, can you really trust these agents with important tasks yet? That's a huge question.
That Google Agent mode where it controls your browser? That must raise some specific safety questions.
It certainly does. What happens if the AI misunderstands your instructions? Or if it gets tricked by a malicious website? How robust are the safeguards against unintended actions? Privacy is another big one. How is your data being used, especially when AI is deeply integrated into things like search? And security experts point out that complex, interconnected multi-agent systems create a larger attack surface, potentially introducing new vulnerabilities like that confused deputy problem, where one agent tricks another into misusing its legitimate permissions. The new security features sound good, but they need battle testing.
And the bigger picture, the ethical and societal stuff.
Always hovering over AI discussions. Risks around algorithmic bias creeping into agent decisions. Imagine agents involved in screening job applicants or loan applications. The potential for job displacement, even if it's task displacement initially, is a constant concern. And the report noted that the demand for better explainability, understanding why an agent made a particular decision or took a specific action, wasn't something heavily emphasized in the big keynotes this time around.
So, recapping the competitive view. Microsoft perceived as more enterprise-ready now, Google may be more visionary on the AI frontier and consumer integration.
That seems to be a common take based on this week's announcements, yeah. And again, that surprising collaboration on standards like A2IMCP is a positive wrinkle, maybe reducing fears of completely locked-in ecosystems, although, of course, some still worry about the overall dominance of just these two huge tech players defining the future.
So, overall, sounds like high enthusiasm in tech circles, a more pragmatic, let's pilot this carefully approach in the enterprise with a strong focus on safeguards and healthy skepticism from some quarters pushing for caution on accuracy, ethics, and security. It's clearly a very dynamic conversation that's really just getting started as these capabilities begin to roll out more widely.
Absolutely. And it's a conversation that really everyone, businesses, individuals, policymakers, needs to be actively participating in.
So, to bring this all back home for you listening, this deep dive into what Microsoft and Google unveiled just this week really underscores that we're moving well beyond just smarter chatbots now. We are clearly entering an age where AI is making a fundamental shift from primarily assisting you to actively acting for you.
Yeah, it's a future where the software and services you rely on won't just be responsive. They're becoming agentic. They'll be capable of understanding complex goals, reasoning about how to achieve them, and working across different applications, maybe even across different companies, to get things done on your behalf.
Microsoft and Google are undeniably leading this charge. Each with their distinct strategies, Microsoft focused on those deeply integrated, secure enterprise co-pilots, Google driving towards a pervasive, proactive, multimodal universal assistant. But interestingly, both converging on this core idea of collaborative AI agents.
And this transformation, it holds incredible promise, right? Massive productivity gains, entirely new ways of interacting with technology. But just as clearly, it brings very real, very significant challenges around trust, security, privacy control, and the ethical use of such powerful tools. These are challenges that businesses, individuals, and society as a whole will absolutely need to understand and navigate very carefully in the coming years.
So here's a final provocative thought for you to chew on after hearing all this. If AI agents built by fierce rivals like Microsoft and Google can potentially start working together using open standards to accomplish tasks for you, what does that ultimately mean for how you define, how you control, and how you manage your own digital identity and boundaries in this increasingly interconnected, agent-driven world that's rapidly taking shape?
Lots to think about there. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the agentic AI future unveiled this week.